Hello crafty friends, I'm Dean from Studio Kato and I'm so happy you're joining me today when I go over the BetterPress cards that I made for the BetterPress Club of the Month over at Spellbinders. I made two very different cards with the same BetterPress plate. I did BetterPress and some pencil coloring, and then I did hot foil and watercoloring for the second one. Now, this BetterPress plate of the month of January is called Poppy Greetings, and I absolutely adore poppy flowers, so I was very happy with this. And then I completely forgot to turn on the camera to do this whole BetterPress thing, so I'm faking inking this up right now, but I inked it up really well with the BetterPress black ink, and I already have some Pebble cardstock taped to the inside of my platen, that top clear plate. This is the Spellbinders BetterPress system, and I am absolutely BetterPress obsessed, so you're definitely going to see plenty more videos for the BetterPress coming from me. Like I said, I used Pebble cotton cardstock for this, and as soon as I got this cardstock, I have wanted to do some pencil coloring on this. I haven't gotten around to it yet until today, and I was not disappointed. It is so stunning. First, I am going to die cut this with the notched corner frames from Spellbinders. I always love an interesting nesting die. I think it is a really easy way to frame your like the little piece of art you put on your cards using nesting dies. So I've been collecting them from Spellbinders, and yeah, this is a really good one that I'm using for the first time today. I'm going to be using my Faber-Castell Polychromos pencils, and right now this cardstock might not look very gray. This is a light gray cardstock, the Pebble cardstock from Spellbinders. It will be linked in the description below. But it's just so beautiful when you see it against white. And I don't use my colored pencils as often as I would like, but most of that, I think, is because I don't like using them on white cardstock. I find it very hard to use colored pencils on white cardstock and have it look nice. I much prefer using them on craft cardstock or a light gray like this one. I think having the white, it just makes it seem a little bit more like a child's coloring maybe. Because colored pencils, they're opaque, so you can use them on a colored cardstock. You know, some colors better than others. But because the grain of the paper... because of the grain of the paper, it's really hard to have them cover every single spot of paper. And the paper is going to shine through that way. So it's not going to interrupt the color, but where there is no color, and it's very hard to cover the entire area with color from a colored pencil, the white is going to show through. And when it's actually white, it's very harsh and I don't like it. It's very noticeable. But when it's on toned cardstock like this, a light gray or a light craft, it's perfect because it's not as noticeable because it's not stark white. And because it's not stark white, I think colors pop on it more. I don't know why that works, but it just does. I love the look of colored pencils on toned cardstock like this. And the BetterPress ink is perfect for colored pencils as well, and it's actually discouraged a little bit to use them with your alcohol markers because it's probably going to make the ink bleed. Depends on how careful you color, but most likely it's going to make your ink bleed. So I think colored pencils are a great option here. I pulled in some green as well, which doesn't really make a lot of sense when you actually look at images of poppies here, but I like the green, so it makes sense to me. I'm also going to pull in the green for the other card, and for this one, I'm using the green for the sentiment. it was sort of a challenge to myself to not use glitter cardstock for the sentiment for once. I thought, how about just some plain colored cardstock? And it took me ages to find a color that I liked, and then I just pulled in some green and it worked really, really nicely. For this card, for putting it together, I adhered a piece of Neenah Solar White cardstock to my card base because I like the creamy look of it. And then I die cut a smaller notched corner frame from some scrap white cardstock a few times to layer it behind my BetterPress Pebble. And that is just going to add some dimension to it, some really nice sturdy dimension. For the sentiment, I am pulling in the Popular Sentiments die set from Spellbinders, which I hadn't been able to use yet, I think. Maybe I did on one card. But yeah, it's a really good sentiment set. Like I said, it's the Popular Sentiment set. So it's most likely sentiments that you're going to use a lot because they're very standard sentiments, and it's a really nice font. The sentiments themselves don't take up much space. So they're not too large, but the font is nice and thick, so they're very noticeable on your card. I really like it. These do have shadow dies as well in the die set. I didn't use those. I think it looks fine without the shadow die, and I didn't want to cover up too much of my coloring because those poppies are stunning, if I do say so myself. Now for a very different look with the same press plate, I'm going to do some watercoloring. And I love to foil with my watercoloring. So I'm going to be using my BetterPress plate to foil with. I'm going to tape it in place just as I would a hot foil plate. And I'm going to put the polished brass hot foil from Spellbinders right underneath it, just like I would with a hot foil plate. And then I am going to trim some of that excess off because it's a lot of excess foil that I had there. And usually when you have so much excess foil flapping about in your Glimmer system, is going to cause overfoiling. So while it's heating up anyway, while the Glimmer system is heating up and I have to wait anyway, might as well trim that excess off. If you want, you could save those excess pieces and use them to foil sentiments or tiny little things like that. I usually don't bother with that because it's a little bit annoying to store those. I don't bother with it, but you could. Maybe you should because it's a little wasteful what I'm doing. But I know I wouldn't pull out those tiny little pieces of foil anyway. So I'm using the Glimmer system, like I said, and this is the result. Now, to foil with BetterPress plates, technically you don't have to do anything different. You might need a shim. That would be a very thin shim, but you could try that if you're having trouble foiling with the BetterPress plates. Now, what I discovered for me and for my hot foil machine is that I do want to let it heat up a little bit longer. So when the plate is on your Glimmer system, I let it go a little bit past the timer of the Glimmer system. Just a little, but that does give me better results, I found, especially on textured cardstock like this watercolor cardstock. Now here I am again with my interesting nesting dies, basic dies. These are the Hemstitch rectangles, and you can just use them as basic rectangle dies, but they do have dies included that add that little dotted line all the way around, and I think that is such a fun little detail. I love it, so I did that as well. And now I'm going to foil the sentiment. The reason I did that after die cutting is because I wanted to place it nicely within the frame, but I mostly wanted that frame or my cutout based on where the flowers were, because those are the main attraction of this card. So I foiled the sentiment where there was still space, and this is from the same BetterPress set from the month, the BetterPress plate of the month. Now this is sped up quite a bit. It still didn't take me that long, maybe 20 minutes or so. But I did some really fun loosey-goosey watercoloring. And the way I do that, because I usually like to stay within the lines of an image, and I find it a little tricky to force myself to color outside of the lines. What makes it easier if you struggle with that is spritzing your watercolor cardstock with water before you start, because that is going to get everything flowing around. There's no way to control that, so that helps. And if you still struggle at that point, use a larger brush than you would usually. That always helps because you have less control with that as well. I still used a pretty small brush here because I was using very, very pigmented colors and I didn't want to use too much paint for these flowers. I'm using mostly a really saturated pink or magenta, and then I'm also pulling in a little bit of orange and yellow. Honestly, because I messed up at some point and there was somehow orange on my card. I don't know how it got there, but I thought fix it by putting more orange on your card, and it helped. So yeah, that's why. Now, after I'm done with this first layer of watercoloring, I am actually going to heat set this. Just make sure it's dry, or mostly dry. It doesn't have to be completely dry, but I wanted to add a little bit more saturated colors in some places and have them not flow around as much. So I wanted to add a little bit of shading. I am still being quite loosey-goosey about this, and I am putting in some lines here and there, just some added texture, and following the lines that are already in that press plate. This really just adds a little bit more interest. There's no rhyme or reason to this at all. Like, I put a dark stripe in what is supposed to be lighter area, and it works for me. It makes no sense, but I think it looks nice. And then to add the last final touch to this loosey-goosey watercoloring is I just splatter on some paint. I do just a few splatters. I don't splatter the entire panel with color, but I just use some pink and some orange, whatever colors I used most in the painting. For my matting layer, I'm pulling, again, some green into the card because that coordinates nicely with the colors I used for my painting. And this is Concord 9th Parsley cardstock. Now, if at any point you think I'm listing too many products and you can't follow, or you just want to see what I used, I have a list of links in the description below. But at the top of that is a link to my blog post. And I don't know if I'm going to keep up with doing this because it's quite a bit of work the way I'm doing it. But there's a visual supply list. You probably have heard Jennifer Maguire mention that. She does that. But a lot of other people do that as well. And I like seeing those. So I thought, why not try to put those on my blog? So yeah. If you want to see all the supplies I used for these cards, you can head on over to the blog posts. You can see some pictures of the cards there as well, and obviously all the products that I used. So this is the BetterPress plate of the month for Spellbinders. I love, love, love these subscription kits from Spellbinders. I was subscribed to quite a few last year, and I absolutely adored them. I do have a video up about more information about the Spellbinders Clubs, and also showing all of the cards that I made with the Spellbinders Clubs of the month of January. So I will link that below. It's my Spellbinders Clubs overview video, and I also have a tutorial video on the small die of the month as well. That is already up. The large die of the month video is coming in a few days, so you can stay tuned for that as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to leave a comment, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!